Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Easy English Spark, your English house for boosting listening and speaking skills every day. In this new series, we'll journey through 10 exciting chapters, from Midnight Walk to Crossroads, using each scene to sharpen pronunciation, expand vocabulary, and practice real dialogue. So grab your notepad, settle in, and let's light up your English step by step. Ready to spark your confidence? Let's go. Chapter 1: Midnight Walk. I lock the bookstore door behind me, hear the latch click into place, and slip the brass key into my coat pocket. The neon sign above, once buzzing orange and blue, gutters twice and dies, leaving Elm Avenue bathed in a murky amber gloom. Midnight has a way of quieting everything. The traffic lights flip from green to red to green for no one. Storefront windows reflect nothing but the empty street, and the city's ceaseless murmurs retreat into distant alleys I can't see. Cold. Air presses against my cheeks, looping icy fingers around my ears. I tug the collar of my leather jacket higher, but it does little to hold the warmth. My breath escapes in pale clouds that hang for a heartbeat before dissolving into the mist, drifting over the pavement. An early autumn fog spills from the river 2 blocks away, sliding low like a slow tide, swathing fire hydrants and parking meters in a pearly veil. My boots strike the concrete at an unhurried rhythm. Clack, pause, steady enough that I can almost imagine I'm tapping a reluctant drum beat for some unheard midnight tune. Every strike ricochets off the tall brick facades and returns to me thinner, emptier, until the echoes sound less like footsteps and more like a question whispered into the dark. I pass shuttered cafes and dim laundromats that smell faintly of detergent even now. The sweet scent drifts through cracked transoms, gets tangled in the fog, and vanishes. Above, street lamps throw pallid halos across the road, but their sodium glow feels timid, as though they're afraid to illuminate anything too clearly. Tonight, the silence carries its own pulse. I pick up faint vibrations of a subway rumbling. Underground, feel it more in my soles than hear it in my ears. A stray plastic bag scuttles across the street like a ghostly crab, catching the breeze, tumbling end over end until it wedges itself beneath a rusted dumpster. The rattling lid bangs once, then stills. Beneath that, a subtle hum of power lines hangs in the chilled air, thin, metallic, almost musical if I tilt my head just right. Halfway down the block, the sidewalk splits around a gnarled sycamore whose roots have heaved the concrete into crooked slabs. I slow, hop the fissure, land with a crunch of dry leaves under my heel. The crisp sound rings too loud, makes me flinch, though no one is there to notice. At least, no one I can see. I tell myself the tightness in my chest is only the cold, that the prickle at the back of my neck is merely wind sneaking under my scarf. Still, instinct sharpens my senses. I listen harder, waiting for something, anything to betray the presence of another living soul. Nothing. Only my own heartbeat. I press on, passing the iron-grilled gate of Harlan's Antiques. In daylight, its display case glitters with brass, candle holders, and Art Deco clocks. Tonight, the glass reflects my shape, tall and stretched, a silhouette inside a silhouette. As I move, my reflection moves with me, lagging half a second behind, and for an irrational instant, I feel chased by my own shadow. A sudden scrape, shoe against asphalt, flares behind me, then falls silent. I stop. The air freezes around my ears. Somewhere a traffic signal clicks over, accompanied by the smallest whoosh as bulbs swap color. I turn my head an inch, not enough to look obvious, just enough to widen my peripheral vision. All I see is fog and lamplight, the road glistening faintly where dew has settled. I resume walking but quicken my pace. The leather jacket flaps, zipper, teeth tinkling. 10 yards later, I hear the scrape again, unmistakable this time, skittering just out of sync with my own rhythm. Boots? Sneakers? Can't tell. The sound evaporates the moment I slow. It could be imagination, yet the night suddenly feels as taut as a tripwire. I swallow, tasting the metallic tang of adrenaline at the back of my throat. Ahead, Elm Avenue crosses Maple, a wider street lit by an old-fashioned diner sign that flickers pink over shiny chrome. Its windows glow warm and buttery, silhouettes of patrons hunched over late coffee blurring behind steamy glass. That diner is my lighthouse. I decide that reaching it will be enough to shake the unease. If someone really is following, bright lights and witnesses will break the spell. I lengthen my stride. My boot heels drum a faster cadence. Bursts of wind shear around the building corners, setting overhead wires to hiss. The fog thins here, swirling into translucent ribbons, revealing stretches of pavement that look slick as black ice. I dodge a pothole, step over a line of crushed beer cans, and keep my gaze locked on the soft neon glow ahead, as though it's the finish line to some private race. But with every step I take, the intangible presence keeps pace. Soft, cautious, measured. I picture a pendulum swinging behind me, matching the tempo of my heart. I want to turn, to confront the darkness and prove nothing is there, yet dread roots my feet forward. Pride hitchhikes with fear. I refuse to appear spooked on my own street. Not yet. A distant ambulance wails, its siren ricocheting through labyrinthine alleys, but it fades quickly, swallowed by the maze of high-rises. The hush snaps back, more oppressive than before. Somewhere above, on a fire escape, laundry left overnight flaps like submerged flags, slapping iron rails in a restless code no one bothers to decipher. I pass beneath a burnt-out lamppost where the night rolls over me like ink. In that pocket of darkness, all warmth drains from the world. The scrape returns, 3 short steps, then hush. I inhale, lungs burning with cold, and finally dare a glance over my shoulder. Nothing but swirling mist. Yet the alley mouths gape on both sides, dark and deep enough to hide a parade. Shadows cluster between dumpsters, and I think I see movement, a shifting of darker dark, but when I squint, it resolves into sagging cardboard. I reach Maple Street at last. The diner's neon sign sputters, throwing a reel of color across wet asphalt. Pink, then blue, then pink again. My reflection ripples in the puddle like an oil slick. From inside comes the clatter of dishes, the faint murmur of an old jukebox, crooning something jazzy and slow. Safety hums there, visible through glass, tantalizingly close. Yet at the curb I hesitate, 1 foot hovering, poised either to cross the road to sanctuary or to continue down the darker stretch that leads eventually to my apartment. Pride whispers to keep going. Don't let fear steer me. Instinct demands light and company. As I stand undecided, the scrape behind me stops altogether, and an enveloping hush settles so absolute I can hear my pulse in my ears. Wind catches the diner sign. It creaks on its hinges, a lonely seesaw of metal. The smell of frying onions drifts across the street, sharp enough to make my stomach lurch, reminding me I skipped dinner while closing inventory. I almost laugh at how a simple aroma can anchor me to normalcy. Almost. A thin voice deep inside warns me this fragile calm could shatter with one wrong turn, one wrong choice. I draw a breath long and deep, tasting fog, neon, frying grease, and something metallic like rain on steel that hasn't fallen yet. I tighten my grip on the book bag slung across my chest, the canvas taut beneath my fingers. I exhale, a deliberate, measured exhale that frosts in the air like a fleeting omen. And then, with a deliberate shift of weight, I decide. Though even as my boot touches the next cracked paving stone, I know that decision carries me further into a night whose story has only just begun. Chapter 2. The Silent Pursuer. The moment I step off the curb and commit to staying on Elm Avenue, the sound behind me restarts. Soft, measured, deliberate. It is not the aimless shuffle of a wanderer, nor the hurried clatter of someone late. For a train, it is a cadence calibrated to mine, a ghostly echo that refuses to stray more than a heartbeat out of sync. I feel it more than I hear it, like a second pulse thrumming somewhere just outside the edge of my awareness. Every instinct screams to spin around, to drag the stranger from the shadows into the open glare of a street lamp. But I keep my back turned, forcing my strides to remain casual. If I whirl too soon, I'll look frightened. If I bolt, I might invite the chase. The fog thickens as I leave the diner's neon glow behind, muffling color and sound alike. Now the storefronts loom as vague silhouettes, their plate glass windows papered with condensation that mirrors only darkness. The hush is uncanny. No taxis, no sirens, not even the flick of a cigarette lighter hidden in an alley. My boots click in a metronome rhythm, 1-2, 1-2, against slick pavement. An accompanying pair follows. Lighter, almost polite, but undeniably there. When I quicken to 3 beats, they adjust. When I coast back to 2, they comply. The choreography is flawless, as though an invisible conductor guides us both. I glance at the passing addresses, 1824, 1826, 1828, committing them to memory in case I need to call the police later and retrace my route. To my left, a boarded-up florist still bears a peeling mural of sunflowers. Beneath the paint, warped plywood gapes where vandals pried it loose. To my right, a boutique tailor showcases mannequins dressed in tuxedos, their porcelain faces half lit, half buried in gray vapor. It dawns on me that every security shutter in the block is closed, every row house stoop empty. No sanctuary here. Up ahead, the avenue kinks left, forced to bend around a half-demolished warehouse whose steel skeleton juts over the sidewalk like the rib cage of a giant fossil. The detour funnels foot traffic, if any existed, into a narrow corridor hemmed by orange mesh fencing. Even in daylight it feels claustrophobic. At midnight it resembles the throat of some concrete leviathan. I slow unconsciously, unwilling to enter that funnel with a stranger at my back. The footfalls behind me pause as well, hovering on the eye. Rim of decision, mirroring my hesitation. I slide my phone from an inside pocket and angle the screen toward my torso, pretending to check messages while stealing a glimpse in its glossy reflection. At first I see only lamplight smeared by mist, then a blur coalesces. A hooded figure perhaps 20 paces behind, head slightly bowed, hands hidden in jacket pockets. I can't make out a face, only a posture. Shoulders rounded inward, gait, balanced on the balls of the feet like a cat expecting resistance. The moment I freeze the image, the reflection dims. The stranger has halted again. It is a game of statues. Every time I move, they move. When I stop, they ossify. The warehouse? Detour looms closer, chain link fences clicking in the wind. A single portable floodlight illuminates the mouth of the passage, but its bulb stutters, emitting a stroboscopic pulse that makes the fog flash like malfunctioning lightning. I weigh my options. Either brave the funnel where escape routes dwindle to none, or cross to the other side of Elm and double back toward the diner, hoping the phantom will reveal itself or lose interest. A stale gust rattles a no trespassing sign. The sudden clang jars me into action. I pivot, intending to jaywalk across the empty street, but the asphalt ahead glistens slick and black, and an oncoming pair of headlights blooms from around the corner, cutting off that escape. Too late. Left only with forward or back, I choose forward, but slowly, muscles coiled, ears strained. I step beneath the floodlight. Its feeble glow paints my shadow huge on the fencing, the silhouette of a lanky marionette with strings leading nowhere. Halfway through the passage, the mesh walls narrow so close my elbows almost brush them. Behind me, footsteps enter the funnel. Their cadence has changed. The tread is heavier now, each impact sending a faint quiver through the plywood floorboards that cover a trench. I force calm into my breathing, but my heartbeat thunders loud enough that I wonder if the pursuer can hear it bouncing off the metal struts overhead. At the corridor's midpoint, a service gate hangs ajar, revealing a sliver of the warehouse interior. Piles of smashed drywall, rebar twisted like skeletal vines. A single work lamp flickers inside, swinging gently, casting rotating shadows that climb and collapse across the wreckage. I imagine ducking through that gap, disappearing into the maze, but the idea dies as fast as it comes. Too many dead ends, too few witnesses. Instead, I press on, sensing the gap between us evaporate to perhaps 12 paces. 10, 8. Just ahead, the fencing widens again, spitting me onto Birch Lane, a side street lined with residential brownstones whose stoops rise like miniature stages. Their windows glow faintly with the blue haze of televisions, but curtains are drawn, and no silhouettes stir within. The hush is broken only by a dripping rain gutter somewhere overhead and the crunch of my boots on scattered gravel. Decide to test the shadow. I slow to a stroll, let my arms dangle loose, head tilting as if to consider the pattern of bricks lining a townhouse facade. Instantly, the other footsteps throttle back, matching my lazy tempo. I stop altogether, as though admiring a wrought iron railing. The stride behind me falters, but only for a heartbeat, then continues 2 measured steps farther before planting firmly. The distance is now no more than 5 good strides. I can almost feel warmth radiating from another body. A stray cat darts from under a stairwell, scaring a squeak out of both of us. I hear the pursuer suck in a sharp breath. For the first time, I catch a fainter sound within the footfall, a hushed rasp, like fabric brushing metal. A zipper? A chain? Something glimpsed and gone. I choose confrontation or something near it. Palm sweating, I pretend to rummage in my bag for cigarettes I don't smoke, using the motion to steal a fuller glance. The stranger is now close enough that details sharpen. A navy hoodie pulled low, hands jammed into pockets bulging with, what? Fists. Something heavier? Jeans scuffed at the knees, shoes cheap and worn, soles separating from canvas. The posture isn't aggressive exactly, but the angle of the head screams vigilance. No sign of inebriation, no wobble in the stance. This is intent. I straighten, close the bag's flap with an audible snap, and set off briskly toward the main avenue, calculating that a well-lit gas station sits 2 blocks east. Streetlights reappear there, buzzing brighter than the ones behind. If I reach that note of illumination before the stranger acts, I'll cut right and make a dash for the attendant booth. The plan is crude but plausible. Light equals witnesses. Witnesses equal deterrence. The footsteps quicken too. I lengthen my stride. They shorten the gap. My fists clench around phantom cigarette pack edges, knuckles whitening. 1 block left. A motion sensor porch light blinks on in a yard to my right, triggered by a gust or a raccoon, bathing us both in sudden glare. I glimpse, for a fraction of a second, a pale oval beneath the hood. Young, gaunt, eyes wide, mouth a tense line. Then the bulb times out, snapping us back to dusk, 70 yards to the gas station. The stranger adjusts course, drifting closer to the gutter so our paths begin to converge rather than run parallel. I angle subtly away, but the sidewalk narrows near a construction bin and forces me back. Our collision course is set, 50 yards. A newspaper vending box lies toppled, its plastic window shattered, pages of yesterday's headlines strewn like white feathers. I veer around it, The stranger simply steps over, graceful as a dancer. 30 yards. I hear a quiet inhalation behind me, an intake of breath that feels rehearsed, as though gearing up to speak or to strike. My pulse spikes. A film of sweat cools instantly on my spine. 20 yards. A night bus roars across the cross street, jets of diesel clouding the air. Its headlights flare, then pass, leaving us in murky half-light one last time. 10 yards. I sense an arm lift behind me, a ripple of fabric, a tiny whistle of displaced air. I pivot halfway, ready to shove, shout, do anything, and the instant stretches, snaps, but no voice comes, no hand lands. Instead, the footsteps cease altogether, as though a mute conductor just cut the orchestra mid-measure. I stop too, chest heaving, one boot poised mid-step. In the hush, I hear nothing now. No breathing but my own, no rustle, not even the shuffle of retreating shoes. I turn fully. The sidewalk yawns empty behind me, fog swirling in innocent eddies. Under the dim glow of a fractured street lamp, only the scattered newsprint flutters. No hoodie, no eyes, no silent pursuer. It's as if the night has swallowed the stranger whole. Yet the air is charged, vibrating with the memory of proximity. I sense the pursuer hasn't vanished, merely slipped into some pocket of shadow where sight can't follow. A prickling certainty crawls across my scalp. This isn't over, not by a long shot. I draw a long breath, let it out in a ragged thread, and resume walking, this time with every muscle keyed to snap, knowing that the unseen rhythm behind me may restart at any moment, and that each tick of the silent drum brings us closer to an inevitable collision neither of us can postpone forever. Chapter 3. Cornered. The humming fluorescence of the gas station forecourt reels me in like a lifeline. A shallow silver lake of light splashed across cracked asphalt. The canopy's halogen tubes sizzle in the mist, forming a shaky rectangle of safety that promises witnesses, cameras, maybe even a night shift clerk willing to call the cops if things turn ugly. I cross the threshold, shoes popping off the damp curb and onto concrete that still radiates the day's leftover heat. For 3 full strides, my shoulders loosen, fooled into believing I've outrun the echo in the fog. Then the pool of light behind me ripples. I feel it first, a tremor in the air, the faintest disturbance, like the pause between lightning and thunder. Instinct snaps my eyes to the convex security mirror bolted to the canopy column. There, bent by the fisheye curve, a hooded figure glides into view at the rim of illumination, feet silent on the asphalt, head angled so I can't see. A face. He stops just outside the fluorescent halo, half dissolved into shadow, as though an invisible tide is tugging him backward into the night. My pulse spikes. I swing toward the convenience store door, yank the handle. Locked. The interior lights are off except for an emergency strip glowing dimly along the back wall. A handwritten sign, scotch taped to the glass, apologizes in looping cursive. Back in 10 min, graveyard ice run. Whoever runs this joint has chosen the worst possible moment for an errand. I pivot, keeping my back to the door, fingers still clutching the handle. The hooded stranger hasn't moved. Instead, he lifts one arm, slowly, deliberately, and rests his hand on the brim of the dumpster that flanks the building. Metal creaks. The gesture isn't overtly menacing, but it carries a proprietary weight, as though he's staking out territory. All that separates us is 40 feet of oil-stained pavement, and the hush of a midnight lonely enough to hear its own spine crack. I think about bolting across the street, but the avenue beyond the station yawns black. Every storefront is shuttered, and every light off. If I sprint, I'll hit another dead patch before I find help. And the stranger, whoever he is, has already proved he can match my stride for stride. A petty thought needles my brain. You should have carried pepper spray, idiot. That practical side of me fights with the stubborn pride that still insists this is a misunderstanding, a trick of nerves amplified by fog and caffeine. Can I help? You? I toss the words across the forecourt, lacing them with just enough bark to hide the quaver underneath. No answer. Only the soft hiss of a pump idle cycling somewhere behind the shuttered station. The stranger's head tilts a fraction, as if studying an unfamiliar animal. A passing truck, high-beamed and thunderous, hurtles by on the avenue, light strobing across us both. For a split second, the glare peels back the hood. Shadows carve hollows beneath cheekbones that jut like ledges, lips chapped and pressed flat, eyes narrowed, feral, but not crazed, focused. The truck's roar fades, darkness sluices back, and I'm left blinking after images. I edge sideways, skirting the building's glass wall, intent on angling toward the payphone bolted beside the air pump station. It's ancient, coin slot rusted, receiver chipped, but it might still have a dial tone. The stranger matches my drift without taking his hand off the dumpster. Pivoting smoothly like a compass needle, we circle each other in slow motion, tethered by tension thicker than the fog. I reach the payphone, slap the receiver off the cradle, and press it to my ear. Dead. Of course. I let the receiver hang, its cord swaying like a severed tail, and brace my knuckles on the payphone casing. My options narrow to two: confrontation or flight, both ugly, both risky. I scan the ground for something to use as a weapon. A discarded squeegee lies near the windshield washing bucket. I picture myself brandishing it like a makeshift baton and almost laugh at the absurdity. A bookstore clerk fencing with a hooded phantom using a rubber blade dripping blue soap. I don't get the chance. With the subtlety of a curtain sliding open, the stranger steps fully into the light, his shoulders square. His hand drops from the dumpster and slides into the pocket of his sweatshirt. That tiny movement yanks every nerve in my body taut. Pocket could mean phone. Pocket could mean gun. But pocket, in the middle of a deserted night, almost always means knife. I straighten, forcing calm into my voice. Look, I don't want trouble. If you need something, money, directions, just say so. He says nothing, but closes the gap to 30 feet. Then 20. His shoes, cheap canvas high tops nearly worn through at the soles, make almost no sound on the pavement. I notice patches on the knees of his jeans, threadbare denim darkened by moisture. A frayed backpack strap crosses his chest, its buckle clinking faintly. The details come in quick flashes like snapshot negatives imposed over adrenaline. 15 feet. The back door of the convenience store bangs open. A teenager in a reflective vest staggers out, hauling a bag of ice over his shoulder. My relief fizzles in the same instant. He slips wireless earbuds into his ears, back turned to us, oblivious. He hefts the ice into a freezer chest, lids clattering, and disappears inside again. The door slaps shut, and I'm alone once more. 10 feet. The stranger stops. He's close enough that the chemical tang of gasoline drifts around him. Close enough to see he's younger than I first guessed. Maybe mid-20s. His eyes, in the pallid light, are an indistinct color that might be green or might just reflect the phosphorescent tubing overhead. They lock onto mine with an intensity that borders on pleading, though whether for money, mercy, or adrenaline I can't yet tell. He pulls his right hand from the pocket, empty. He lifts the hand, palm open toward me, fingers trembling. The universal gesture for halt sits strangely gentle on him, like he's as scared to spook me as I am to be spooked. His left hand remains buried in fabric, bulge unmistakable, shape indeterminate. For a breathless second, neither of us moves. A tableau etched in neon. One figure rooted by fear, the other rooted by whatever force drives him forward. Then the tremor in his exposed hand intensifies. His throat bobs, swallow hard, lips part. The words leak out raw, scraped by hesitation. "Don't," he rasps, voice fraying into 2 syllables. He falters, swallows again. "Don't run." I freeze. Wasn't planning to, but the plea glues my shoes to concrete all the same. Something in the tone, thin, almost apologetic, snags my curiosity even as every sane impulse screams, I should sprint. He takes 1 step closer. Now I see the quiver in his jaw, the inflamed cut across his cheekbone, half hidden beneath stubble. He hesitates, fists clenching and unclenching like pistons misfiring. "Look, He drags in air like it might burn. "I just need..." Emotion flickers at my right. The teen clerk returns, propping the door with his foot and rolling a crate of soda cans outside. I seize the moment and shout, "Hey, you got a phone in there? Call 911. The teen jerks, earbuds popping loose. Cans clatter in the crate. He eyes me, then the hooded stranger. The stranger's left hand whips from his pocket. A glint, small, swift, unmistakable, flashes. The blade isn't huge, maybe 3 inches, but under fluorescent light it looks surgical, decisive. He flips it downward, point angled to the concrete in a half-threat, half-plea posture. The teen freezes, pupils blown wide. Seconds stretch like tar. I swing my gaze back to the stranger. His face contorts. Regret? Fury? I can't parse. He hisses through clenched teeth, "Don't," then jerks the knife just enough that the teen yelps and bolts, door slamming, lock thunking. Now it's just the 2 of us again. My heartbeat pounds so loudly it distorts the world's audio track. I become aware of minutia, the buzz of the canopy bulbs, the drip of melting ice water down the freezer's metal side, the wet click of my tongue against a palate gone desert dry. The stranger takes a shaky breath. When he speaks, his voice quivers like a frayed guitar string. I'm not gonna hurt you." Knife still hangs low, point glimmering. "But I need your wallet." I steady my own voice, try to keep it level. "Everything I've got is yours. Just nothing fancy, okay?" He nods, but the nod doesn't relax him. Sweat beads at his temple, slides down the curve of his jaw. He looks as cornered as I feel, like 2 animals trapped in the same snare, each convinced the other holds the key. I slip my hand into my coat pocket with exaggerated slowness, fingers brushing the leather wallet. At that exact moment, a memory slams me. Dad teaching 8-year-old me to calm a spooked horse. Keep your movements smooth, keep your voice low, show your palms. The knife in this man's hand is no horse, but fear is still fear. And fear can buck. I pull the wallet halfway. Out. His eyes lock onto it. Pupils flicking from the leather to my face, back to the leather, like a predator watching prey's shoulder muscles before the sprint. I freeze, wallet dangling. My tongue loosens a question before my brain approves. What's your name? The query lands between us like a misfired flare, garish and unexpected. He blinks, startled. His mouth opens, but nothing emerges. The hand holding the knife trembles so violently the tip taps the concrete with a faint metallic tick. For a second, I think he might drop it. Thunder rumbles, low, distant. The weather forecast had promised clear skies, but the horizon mutters otherwise. The stranger's gaze darts toward the sound, as if storm clouds rank higher than me on his threat list. Another tick of the blade on pavement. Then he drags his gaze back. Doesn't matter, he whispers. It matters to me. My own audacity astonishes me. Lightning spider webs across my nerves, but my voice stays calm, almost gentle. Tell me, and I'll hand this over. A soft, choked laugh escapes him, part disbelief, part sorrow. He shakes his head, hood swaying, raindroplet mist flying off fabric. You think names fix this? He murmurs. Maybe not, I say. But they're a start. He looks away, down the avenue, into the dark that birthed him, perhaps measuring how far desperation can take. A man before it demands more. Another rumble rolls overhead, closer this time. A gust sweeps through the forecourt, fluttering the edges of his hoodie, and in that wind I catch a smell. Sweat, yes, but also something sweeter. Cafeteria coffee, stale bread, maybe even the tang of cheap hospital antiseptic. It paints a story less of malice than of exhaustion. My hand still clutches the wallet. My other hand lifts, palm outward, a mirror to his earlier gesture. The neon reflects off my lifeline creases, stark and bright. Take it, I say quietly. Just don't write the ending in blood. His eyes dart from wallet to wallet again. The tremor in the knife hand steadies, then surges. Thunder growls overhead. He flinches. I exhale, slow and deliberate. In that breath, I feel the storm above, the dying bulbs around us, the locked glass door behind, the soft leather pressing against my fingertips, the raw edge of another human soul scraping against mine. Everything narrows to a single pivot point. what he chooses to do next, and how I choose to meet it. And there, in the heart of that charged silence, I realize I am no longer merely being followed down a foggy street. I am face to face with a fracture line in someone else's life, and maybe in mine as well. What happens in the next breath will determine which side of that fracture each of us will stand on when dawn finally washes this night clean. Chapter 4. The Threat. Lightning flickers on the horizon, throwing jagged silhouettes of warehouse cranes against a bruised sky. The ozone crackle seems to tighten every muscle in my neck. I keep one hand lifted, palm bare, wallet dangling from the other. A single bead of sweat slides along my temple, cool at first, then hot as it meets the edge of my jaw. In front of me, the stranger shifts his weight, shoes scuffing tiny arcs of grit across the concrete. The blade quivers in his fist like a tuning, fork searching for pitch, glinting each time the canopy lights sputter. He studies the wallet as if it's the answer to an equation he's never quite solved. His eyes drift to mine, then back to the wallet, then lower, to the veins visible through the thin skin of my wrist. A pulse flutters there, urgent, impossible to hide. For an instant, I think he might slash simply to silence that pulse, because its insistence reminds him how loud his own has become. Thunder rolls again, closer now, shaking the steel supports that hold the forecourt roof aloft. Somewhere behind us, a sheet metal panel rattles, and the knife jerks upward a hair, tip catching glare, before dipping again. I let my breath out in a thread, shaping it so it won't sound like a gasp. He begins. The word cracks apart, dries on his tongue. He tries again, softer. I'm not a murderer. His voice is hoarse, scraped thin by cold air and fear. But there's a desperate conviction in it, as though saying the words might carve them into truth. The sentence hangs between us. Wind picks it up, flicks it once, then drops it. I nod, small, slow, keeping every movement deliberate. I know, I say. I don't know. But the moment the lie leaves my mouth, his shoulders loosen, minutely, as if a knot behind his sternum slips half a turn. Rain begins, not a downpour, but a test pattern of fat drops that pockmark the asphalt in random Morse code. One lands on the back of my hand, bursts cool, rolls under my sleeve. The stranger's hoodie darkens where droplets strike, spider webbing out in spreading stains. He glances up, lips parting as if the sky's sudden arrival has caught him unprepared. Another footstep sounds behind the convenience store door. Maybe the clerk, maybe a second employee, and both of us pivot a fraction, eyes flicking to the glass. The interior light winks on, bright and revealing, then dims again as someone moves away from the motion sensor. The stranger's breathing hitches. I picture him recalculating risk on the fly, weighing hostages and witnesses in equations. No one should ever have to write. The knife lifts until its tip points at the hollow between my collarbones. Not slashing, not stabbing, just an emphatic extension of his need. Rainwater beads along the blade's edge, making it gleam like living mercury. Wallet. Now, he whispers, not barked, not snarled, whispered like a confession. I ease the wallet fully free and hold it out by one corner. My fingers tremble despite my best effort to play calm. He inches forward. Every step looks practiced, light, patient, almost rehearsed. But the closer he comes, the more I see tremors riding up his scrawny forearms, turning the knife into a metronome for dread. At 2 paces, he stops and extends his left hand. The backpack strap creaks across his chest as weight shifts. I smell damp fabric, cheap cologne, and something coppery that might be blood or only rusty rainwater sluicing from the roof. His fingers brush the wallet, twitch back, brush again, then close hard, whitened by strain. The knife stays trained on me the entire time, shaky but certain. With the wallet transferred, I slowly lower my hand. Lightning flashes again, brighter, overhead now, and for half a heartbeat the whole forecourt floods with white fire. In that raw illumination, I register details previously hidden. An old hospital bracelet looped tight around his wrist, half torn. A faint bruise beneath his eye in the shape of a ring, crusted blood at the corner of one nostril. Evidence of worlds I haven't walked. He rifles the wallet with his free thumb, flipping through bills, ignoring cards. The sum isn't much, maybe $40, but he exhales as though the number is bigger than it looks. Relief, brittle and ragged, crosses his face. The knife dips a fraction. Lightning blinks again. Thunder answers, sharp and immediate. The sound jolts him and the blade snaps back up. Rain thickens, drumming on the canopy until the fluorescent buzz is drowned out. Sheets of water sluice off the roof's edge in shimmering curtains. We stand inside a rectangle of relative dryness, the world beyond blurred into watercolor grays. If that's enough, we're done, I say, surprised how level I sound. Take it and go before someone calls the cops. His gaze leaps from the wallet to the shuttered storefronts beyond the pumps, then back to me. He bites his bottom lip until color drains from it. It's never enough, he mutters, voice barely audible over the rain. Rent's a week late. Sister's kid needs antibiotics. Boss laid me off. Never enough. He pockets the bills. But instead of retreating, he closes the wallet and sets it gently on the cement island between us, as if he can't abide owing me the leather. He steps back 2 paces, knife still up, eyes still locked. Yet something intangible has shifted. The spring inside him that wound tight enough to stab is loosening, its coil unspooling in the rhythm of rainfall. I hazard a question. What's your name? A repeat of the earlier gambit, but this time, the storm roofs us together, an unwanted intimacy that makes silence heavier than speech. He hesitates long enough that lightning flashes twice before he answers. Miles. The name slips out like a secret he's tired of guarding. I taste the syllable, commit it to memory. Alex, I offer, raising my empty hands. That's me. Miles blinks raindrops off his lashes. His knife hand lowers until the blade points at his own shoe. The steel quivers once, then steadies. Sirens warble in the distance. We both hear them. Not urgent yet. No flashing reds cresting the avenue, but getting closer. The clerk must have found the landline in the farm. Stockroom. Miles flinches as if stung, shoulders drawing in. Adrenaline kicks through his posture, ready to hurl him back into the dark. You can still walk away, I say. Lose the knife, blend into the rain. Nobody saw your face clear. He scans the street, columns of watery light, empty intersections, a lone traffic signal swaying like a pendulum. His knuckles whiten around the knife. Can't, he whispers. Too late. He lifts the blade, not toward me, toward himself. The tip hovers under his chin, just grazing stubble. My stomach drops. The threat isn't outward anymore. It's inward, self-destruction as escape. Lightning freezes the tableau. He, rain-soaked, knife sparkling. Me, arms half raised. Night, holding its breath. No, I say, stepping forward before I think. My shoes splash through a puddle. Miles startles, blade wobbling perilously close to skin. I stop dead, palms up. Don't do that. His throat works. 30 seconds and cruisers roll in. I'm done either way. Not if you put it down, I insist. Thunder booms, swallowing my words, but he reads them on my face. I take another small step. He doesn't retreat. I keep talking, softer now, as though quiet might muffle the sirens, drawing nearer. Don't make this your headline. Make it your footnote. Drop the knife, run through the alley, disappear. People start over every day. His jaw trembles. Rainwater courses off the hood, tracing tracks along his cheeks. In the reflected puddle between us, streetlights sputter, halos warped by ripples. Somewhere behind me, tires hiss on wet asphalt. The police cruiser is close enough that I can catch the faint red-blue flicker refracting between the pumps. "Please," I add, and I'm startled to feel tears warm in my own eyes. Part fear, part anger at the absurd fragility threading all. Our lives together. Miles exhales a sound like wind-tearing cloth. His fingers flex. For one slamming heartbeat, I think he will drive the blade upward. Instead, he crouches, sets the knife on the concrete, releases it like a live coal. The metal clinks once, spins, and stops, edge up, reflecting emergency light flickers growing brighter by the second. He straightens, hands raised, palms outward, empty. Two cruisers sweep into the forecourt, tires dousing arcs of gutter water. Doors fling open, commands thunder through loudspeakers. "Hands where we can see them! Down on your knees!" Red-blue. Strobes pulse across Miles's face, turning his exhausted features into a shifting mask. He lowers to his knees without resistance. Rain plasters his hoodie to his frame, making him look smaller, breakable. As officers converge, I step back into the shelter of the payphone alcove, eyes fixed on the knife still glittering between us. Proof of the line he didn't cross after all. While they cuff him, I pick up the wallet he left behind and clutch it to my chest. Bills gone, cards untouched. Lightning cracks directly overhead, bright as noon. In that brutal flash, I glimpse Miles tilting his head toward me, lips parting as though to speak. But thunder drowns whatever words he tries to send. The cruiser door slams, swallowing him whole, and the vehicle pulls away through curtains of rain, siren rising, then fading into the far edge of night. I stand beneath the hiss of storm water until the forecourt empties and the canopy lights stabilize. The wallet feels heavier now, as if the $40 removed weighs more in absence than it ever did in cash. I open it, stare at my driver's license photo glowing under sodium light, and wonder if the man in the picture remotely resembles the one who chose not to run, not to fight, but to speak. Rain eases to a mist, soft as breath. I slide the wallet back into my pocket, stoop, and lift the abandoned knife with 2 fingers by its dull spine. It's lighter than I expected, cheap, unbalanced, the kind of blade you'd find in a discount bin. Still dangerous, but only if desperation sharpens it. I wipe rain from the handle, fold the hinge, and slip it into my coat's inner lining. Evidence, I tell myself. But that's not the real reason. I keep it because it reminds me that a threat can become a choice, and a choice can become something else entirely in the space between lightning and thunder. Leaving the gas station behind, I step out into the damp hush of post-storm streets, each puddle mirroring fractured neon, each lamppost humming with new electricity. The night isn't safe now, but it never was. It's merely a canvas, waiting for the next flash to reveal who we are when shadows press closest and every breath tastes like a wager. Chapter 5. A Moment of Choice. Rain hushes to a lingering drizzle by the time I leave the gas station forecourt, but the night still smells of ozone and motor oil. The cruiser's taillights fade beyond the warehouses, twin rubies swallowed by fog, and the city laps shut behind them as if nothing happened. I stand alone beside a vacant pump, the stolen knife tucked in my coat's inner pocket like a pulse I can't ignore. The wallet, lighter now by $40, rests in my palm. When I flip it open, my own ID stares back, forehead shiny in DMV fluorescence, eyes less certain than I remember. I close the leather and slip it away, yet the gesture doesn't erase the tremor in my fingertips. A question gnaws. Did I just watch Miles's life collapse, or did I push him toward something better? No tidy answer comes, only the faint squeak of wet sneakers as I start home. The insomnia trek. Street lamps smear across puddles, turning asphalt into sheets of tarnished silver. I trace the long route instead of the shortcut, anything to keep motion in my legs so thought won't catch up. But thought is patient. By the time I reach my apartment building an hour later, it crowds every step. Upstairs, fluorescent hallway bulbs hum over peeling wallpaper. I unlock 3B, toss my damp jacket on the sofa, and discover the knife gleaming where it lands. The cheap folding blade snaps open with a metallic sigh. Under the kitchen light, I notice a nick near the hinge, resinous grime in the groove, signs of a tool used often, maybe for boxes at a warehouse job now lost. Hard to imagine it was meant for my ribs only 20 minutes ago. I fold it shut and rest the handle against my palm. Evidence, I remind myself, though no officer asked me for a statement. They bundled Miles into the cruiser and sped off, leaving paperwork for dawn shift detectives. If I show up tomorrow, blade in hand, the report will swell, charges might stiffen, and a desperate man could pivot from attempted robbery to something uglier just because I dotted every legal I. Something settles in my gut. A stone of responsibility more solid than fear. Night-flooded memories. Coffee won't calm me, so I brew some anyway. Steam fogs the kitchen window, painting ghostly shapes over the courtyard below. In the swirls, I picture Miles's hospital wristband. White, plastic, half torn, printed with a barcode and a first name I now know. Why does he still wear it? Recent discharge? Visiting someone? The thought of a sister's kid needing antibiotics resurfaces, jagged and raw. The rain taps harder against the glass, and suddenly I'm 8 again, standing outside Dad's barn, while he eases a spooked foal into a trailer. Horses bolt when cornered, he'd said, hand steady on the halter. But give 'em a way out, and they'll walk. I didn't give Miles a way out. Half victim, half spectator. I watched him crumble and called it justice. The drip of the faucet syncs with my pulse. Midnight ticks past 2 a.m. Outside, squad car sirens flare and fade. Some other crisis, some other corner. I can return the knife, my rational brain argues. File a statement. Forget. But another voice, the one that asked his name, won't. Hush. Choice takes shape at 3:17 a.m. The city maintains only one precinct overnight, 14th and Delancey. If Miles was booked, he's there in a holding cell that stinks of disinfectant and stale fear. In 6 hours, he'll face arraignment. By noon, he could be shipped to county where court backlogs stretch into months. 40 stolen dollars won't feed his sister's kid from inside a cell. I rinse the coffee mug, dry my hands, and pick up the knife again. It's absurdly light. Nothing like the weight it held an hour ago. I tuck it back into my coat, slip on dry shoes, and pocket a flash drive containing my bookstore pay stubs. Proof that $40 won't tank me if anyone asks about restitution. Downstairs, the lobby smells of bleach and late-night television, leaking from apartment 1A. I hesitate at the front door, palm on cold glass. The rational voice returns. What if he blames you? What if he's violent once the cuffs come off? A harsher question follows. What if no one ever offered you another chance after your worst moment? I exhale into the hollow hush, and in that breath, I realize the choice is already made. It isn't about absolving a crime. It's about refusing to let a single terrified act become the definition of a human life. His or mine. The walk back into weather. Umbrella forgotten, I step into mist that smells faintly of exhaust and wet asphalt. Traffic lights blink yellow over empty intersections. A bar on 9th spills laughter from a cracked door. Across the street, a bakery worker's van unloads sacks of flour. The machinery of survival never sleeps, I think. but it can stall for anybody. At Delancey, the precinct sodium floodlights bleach color from everything, even the rain. I pause under the awning, patting the coat pocket where the knife rests. My heart bangs so hard it feels like a warning siren in my ribs. Through glass doors, I glimpse a receptionist hunched over paperwork, boredom etched deep. Beyond her, a corridor vanishes into holding cells. Thunder grumbles once more, softer, traveling west now. I draw a breath that tastes of disinfectant and old metal, push open the door and step inside. That first step across the precinct threshold is the moment of choice, not dramatic, not redeeming, but real. I don't know what I'll say to the desk sergeant or to Miles if they let me near him. I only know the alternative is to walk back to the bookstore tomorrow, shelve hardcovers, cash registers humming, and pretend nobody drowns when the night gets too deep. So I choose not to pretend. I choose the storm-sting air of a police lobby at 3:30 a.m., a folded knife in my pocket, and a decision that might rewrite 2 biographies before daylight. Chapter 6. Offer of Humanity. I push through the precinct's glass doors and step into fluorescent daylight that never dims, a sterile glare licking every surface. The lobby reeks of disinfectant, burned coffee, and cardboard pizza crusts abandoned by tired officers. My shoes squeak on waxed linoleum as I approach the front desk. Behind reinforced glass, a sergeant with iron-gray temples leafs through paperwork. He glances up, registers my damp coat, and arches one eyebrow. I clear my throat. My name's Alex Mercer. I was involved in a robbery an hour ago. Gas station on Elm. The suspect was brought here in 2 cruisers. I need to speak to him or at least leave a message. The sergeant's gaze darts to a monitor, fingers tapping keys. Victim? I nod. He tilts his head, skeptical. Most victims spend the night at home, not here. I know, but I'm not pressing charges, and I have something that belongs in the report. I pat the inner pocket where the folded knife rests. The metal feels warm from body heat, oddly intimate. He motions me to an anteroom the size of a broom closet. A lone table presides over mismatched chairs, one leg shorter than the rest. A fluorescent tube hums overhead. Each flicker deepens the circles under my eyes. Minutes later, he returns, holding a plastic evidence bag. I slide the knife inside, sign a property log, and watch the zip tie seal what could have been my wound, now downgraded to paperwork. Suspect's name? The sergeant asks. Miles. No last name yet. Mid-20s, brown hair, blue hoodie. He scrolls. Miles Carson. Booked on attempted armed robbery. Standard protocol keeps him in holding. Till arraignment at 10. The sergeant pauses, searching my face. You're sure about dropping charges? I'm sure. The certainty surprises even me. Can't stop the DA, he warns. But your statement carries weight. Sit tight. He disappears down a hallway smelling of stale bleach and sleeplessness. The holding corridor. He leads me past fingerprint rooms and vending machines humming like tired bees. At each buzz of an electronic lock, my nerves jolt. We stop at a heavy door with a wired glass slit. Inside, a row of metal benches lines cinder block walls painted institutional sage. 4 detainees hunch in reflective silence. Miles sits at the far end, hands cuffed to a waist chain. Hood down now, hair dark with rain, head bowed. 1 minute, the sergeant says, then stations himself by the door, arms crossed. I step in. The rubber soles of my shoes squeak, announcing every footfall. Miles lifts his head, confusion swirling in red-rimmed eyes. He looks smaller without the knife, shoulders caved like a house after termites. He croaks. Why are you here? I stay, a few paces away, close enough to speak softly, far enough to honor whatever space he needs. I came to tell the detectives I won't testify against you. I told them you never threatened to kill me, only asked for my wallet. His mouth drops open. They'll charge me anyway. Maybe. But if the victim refuses to cooperate, it's harder to push for a felony. You're more likely to get diversion, or at least a lighter sentence. I draw in a breath. Look, I don't know your whole story. You mentioned rent, your sister's kid. I believe you. I can't fix everything, but I can keep this from wrecking the rest of your life before it even starts. He blinks rapidly, as if trying to wash grit from his vision. Why? He whispers. The question floats in the stale air, bigger than either of us. I think of Dad and the foal, of small mercies that changed my own trajectory. Teachers who waived late fees on library books. A stranger who paid for my broken bicycle tire freshman year. None of those people knew the chain reaction their kindness would trigger, but I'm standing here because they struck the first spark. Because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it. I answer. That day rerouted my life. Maybe this can reroute yours. He stares, distrust and hope wrestling in his expression. Hope wins by a millimeter. A tear escapes. He flinches as though even vulnerability might earn him more cuffs. I ease a pre-folded card from my coat. The address of Harbor House Shelter, plus the phone of a workforce program run by a retired contractor who gives second chances. When you get out, tonight or next week, go here. Tell them Alex with the bookstore sent you. They'll feed you, get you a cot, line up an intake interview. Miles shakes his head, half wonder, half warning. You don't know if I'll just disappear, go back to the streets. True, that's your call. I slip the card into the small pocket sewn onto the front of his hoodie. But now disappearing won't be your only option. Footsteps echo. An officer approaching to ferry detainees to processing. Our minute is almost gone. I meet Miles's eyes one last time. Take the chance, I say, voice low. No one else can take it for you. His lips part, but the officer unlocks the bench chain. Miles rises, cuffs jingling. As he passes me, he pauses, leans infinitesimally close and whispers, "Thank you." It's breath, not sound, yet it lands heavier than thunder. The officer steers him away. The door clangs. Shut. I'm left in the hush, pulse throbbing against eardrums, the electric taste of a decision still sizzling in my veins. Desk, dawn. I sign final paperwork, the official withdrawal of my complaint. The sergeant nods once, grudging respect flickering in tired eyes. Takes guts to come back, he mutters. On the steps outside, first light spreads over damp pavement, painting the city in pale peach. Delivery trucks rumble awake, tires hissing through leftover puddles. A bakery vent exhales cinnamon warmth into the cool dawn, and for the first time that night I inhale deeply without shivering. My phone buzzes, a text from my manager, Cynthia, fretting about why I'm not home. I type back, "Long night, will explain." I'm okay. I slide the device away and start walking, shoes splashing through thin lacework streams that spider across the gutter. Each footfall feels lighter than the last, not because the world is fixed, far from it, but because I've discovered a simple equation: fear divided by empathy equals action. It isn't heroic, just human. And for one fragile dawn, that's enough. Somewhere behind precinct walls, doors unlatch, papers shuffle, and lives inch forward. Miles among them, maybe. I picture him memorizing the card's address, palms sweating, around the chain links of his cuffs, choosing whether or not to believe a stranger's offer of humanity. I can't steer that choice, but I can trust it exists. I walk the rest of the way home beneath a sky the color of wet newsprint, feeling the city reawaken, street by street, heartbeat by heartbeat. And I wonder whose story will cross mine next, and whether I will recognize in time the moment when mercy chooses to speak. Chapter 7. Shared Meal. Sunrise fans across the courthouse facade in thin amber blades, glinting off the rain-glossed marble steps. I lean against a cast-iron lamppost, hands dug deep in my coat pockets, pretending the chill doesn't seep through my sleeves. Inside, Miles is wading through arraignment formalities, paper bracelets swapped for temporary release forms, my withdrawn complaint serving as a makeshift life raft. A bailiff finally ushers him out a side door. No cuffs now, just red pressure marks where steel once gripped. His hoodie is the same, soaked last night, stiff now with dried rain. But his posture has shifted a fraction upward, as though the dawn added a vertebra where despair had taken one away. He spots me, hesitation flickering behind his eyes, and gives a nod equal parts greeting and question. I tip my chin toward the street. "Come on," I say. "You look like you could eat an actual planet." The walk to the diner. We keep a cautious pace along Maple Boulevard, traffic beginning its Monday crescendo. Buses hiss at curbs, cyclists weave through puddles. The city smells of wet brick, diesel, and the first batch of roasted beans venting from corner cafes. Words hang between us like unstruck chords until Miles clears his throat. "I thought you'd changed your mind," he admits, voice scuffed with sleepless hours. "I promised a meal," I answer, "and a promise counts double on an empty stomach." We stop at Rosie's, a 24-hour diner wedged between a locksmith and a laundromat. Neon script still buzzes in the window, breakfast all day, casting strawberry milk-colored light across the sidewalk. A bell tinkles when I push the door. Inside, warmth and the scent of bacon wrap around us like dry towels fresh from a dryer, sliding into a booth. A waitress with a marigold apron waves us to a vinyl booth under a wall of framed black and white photos, cityscapes from 50 years ago, back when trolley tracks ribbed the avenues. Steam snakes from mismatched mugs already waiting at the spot. Black coffee for me. Hot water for tea that Miles never orders. He sits opposite, eyes skimming laminated menus but not reading. His fingers drum arrhythmic patterns near a chipped sugar caddy, then retreat into his sleeves. Outside, passing cars splash gutter water against the curb. Inside, the diner radio hums low, Sam Cooke crooning that a change is gonna come. I wrap chilled hands around my mug and break the quiet. "Rule 1, I say, nodding at his menu. "No prices today. Order like a king who's lost his treasury, but kept his appetite." A wary smile ghosts across his face, quick, almost embarrassed. He flips to house specials, traces the page, clears his throat again. Steak and eggs?" he ventures, as if the syllables might shatter in the air. "Medium rare, I guess." He shrugs. Never had steak for breakfast. First time for everything. I wave down the waitress. Steak and eggs, hash browns extra crispy, side of pancakes, and a veggie omelet for me, rye toast. She scribbles, beams at Miles. He flinches at kindness but tries a nod and disappears behind swinging doors, waiting for the food. Silence resets but feels looser now. I slide 2 creamers toward him. He rotates them between thumb and forefinger like unfamiliar puzzle pieces. How'd it go in there? I ask. He shrugs, eyes on the Formica. Judge read the charges. Prosecutor mumbled about lack of victim cooperation. Public defender said, "Your Honor," twice. And suddenly I'm signing release papers. Like the whole morning was balanced on a missing sentence. Alex Mercer declines to testify. I blow on my coffee. Sentences matter. Miles traces a hairline crack in the tabletop. Feels like cheating. People don't just get do-overs. Not often, I concede. But they do get second chapters. If they prove they can write them. His gaze flicks up, holds. He wants to believe but doesn't trust the shape of belief yet. The waitress returns with 2 plates big enough to orbit. The steak hisses where butter pools. Fried eggs jiggle sunny yolks. Pancakes glisten under a pat of slowly liquefying maple butter. Hash browns form a golden continent. Steam rises in gentle spirals. First bites. Miles stares as if the plate might vanish if he blinks. He picks up knife and fork, then pauses, letting the aroma fold around him. Slowly, he carves a corner of steak, pink center flashing. The first bite disappears in 2 chews. A sound escapes him, half sigh, half gasp. Surprise at flavor bursting across a palate long deprived. His shoulders drop an inch, the first visible release since last night. He eats. I watch, not intrusively, just verifying the mechanical miracle of nourishment. He alternates steak with forkfuls of pancake, syrup threading down the tines. Each swallow colors his cheeks warmer. Halfway through the plate, he stops, blinking. "When's the last time you slept?" he asks, noticing circles beneath my eyes. I laugh quietly. "Probably around the same time you did." 0 hours. "Then," he says, surprising me with dry humor. We both chuckle. The tension fractures further. Conversation unfurls. He dabs syrup from his chin with a thin brown napkin. "You said someone helped you once. What happened?" So I tell him. Summer after college, rent overdue, bookstore job not yet offered, my mother's medical bills stacking like crooked towers. A stranger in line behind me at a pharmacy paid for antibiotics I couldn't afford. a $49 gesture that bought my mother one more week of breath. I promised I'd pay it forward, I say, swirling coffee. Took longer than I thought to find the moment. Miles nods slowly, absorbing data like puzzle pieces. His fork scrapes the plate. Sister's 8. Half-sister, really. Asthma. That makes her wheeze so loud I can hear it through the wall. His voice thins. Mom works doubles. Rent keeps climbing. I was temping at a shipping warehouse till they cut shifts. When my last paycheck bounced, He trails off, ashamed. You reached for whatever felt within arm's length. I finish gently. His eyes shimmer. I kept telling myself it was just fear talking, but fear got louder. He lifts the steak knife, examines its serrated edge, sets it down. You know how loud fear can get. I nod. But it's not the only voice. Plans and possibilities. I slide a folded brochure across the table. The workforce program I mentioned at the precinct. Orientation is Wednesday at 9. Bus pass inside. They don't care about arraignments as long as you show up sober and on time. Miles unfolds the pamphlet with cautious fingertips. Carpentry apprenticeship? He reads aloud. Entry level, I say. Pay won't buy you a yacht, but it'll feed your sister. He exhales, the sound half hope, half terror. I haven't held a promise in so long I'm afraid I'll break it. Promises are rubber, I reply. They stretch, they rebound. He offers a shaky grin. You've got a metaphor for everything. Bookstore habit. Collect words. Spend them liberally. Check arrives. The waitress slides the bill face down between coffee rings. I snatch it before Miles can glimpse numbers. He starts to protest. I raise a hand and mock glare. Rule 2 of First Meal Club. The newcomer never pays. He chuckles, tension easing one last notch. I settle the check with crumpled 20s, ironic mirror of last night's missing cash, and leave a tip thick enough to float. Outside the diner the sun climbs, edges of clouds glowing like reheated iron. The city's weekday cacophony hits us. Car horns, jackhammers, a street saxophonist riffing scales 3 blocks down. For a beat, we stand on the sidewalk, dawn crowds splitting and swirling around us. Miles pockets the brochure and bus pass. If I mess this up, then you rewrite again, I answer. Call the bookstore. Ask for Alex. We'll brainstorm. Draft 2. He bites his lip, nods, then extends a hand. I take it. His grip is firmer than last night's tremor would suggest, a pulse stronger, steadier. When he releases, his gaze skims the street, locating the nearest bus stop. He steps backward, raises a hand in thanks that catches the sunlight, and turns. I watch until his blue hoodie melts into the rush hour tide, piece by piece swallowed by morning. I inhale, tasting bacon grease and diesel, and realize my own hunger for sleep, for pages unshelved, for quieter nights, has returned but no longer feels heavy. It feels earned. Turning north toward the bookstore, I pass the diner window. My reflection overlays an old black and white cityscape inside, a double exposure of past and present. I catch my own eyes and think, fear can be loud, but not louder than one good breakfast and a table shared at the right moment. Then I step off the curb, weaving into the river of Monday, carrying the echo of plates clinking and a newfound conviction that humanity is best offered hot, with extra syrup, before anyone convinces themselves they're beyond its reach. Chapter 8. Stories Unearthed. 2 days blur past after that breakfast at Rosie's, but a single sentence keeps looping in my head like the stuck chorus of an old vinyl. I haven't held a promise in so long I'm afraid I'll break it. I shelve bestsellers, ring up tourists, reorder stationery. Yet every click of the cash drawer sounds like the scrape of Miles's steak knife on ceramic, a reminder that appetite and desperation share more vowels than most people notice. Wednesday, 5 minutes before closing, the front bell jingles. The shop smells of dusted oak shelves and rain-soaked umbrellas left near the door. Cynthia peers from behind the register, expecting another last-minute customer, but no one steps inside. Instead, the bell rings again, short, anxious, as if whoever is holding the handle cannot decide whether to enter or bolt. I wipe palms on jeans and cross the creaking floorboards. When I open the door, Miles stands on the top step, shoulders hunched, hoodie darker at the edges from drizzle. His eyes travel the length of the doorway, half asking permission, half expecting rejection. You made orientation, I say, keeping my voice casual even as relief spreads warm as tea down my spine. He nods, rain droplets clinging to lashes. They gave me this. He lifts a plastic visitor badge from Harbor House's workforce program. Apprentice Carson, M. His thumb rubs the printed letters as though worried they might smudge. They start us Monday, half pay until probation ends, then full. That's faster than I hoped. I step aside. Come in before we lock up. Smells better than the street. Cynthia shoots me a knowing grin and mouths 10 minutes before disappearing into the office. The shop sighs quiet once the back door clicks, Lamps on each aisle cast amber puddles over spines, bright enough to read titles, dim enough to invite confession. Miles walks past the front display, fingertips brushing a row of travel guides, like a blind man mapping continents. Never thought I'd end up in a bookstore dressed like this. He gestures to paint-flecked jeans someone at Harbor House must have donated. They hang loose where hunger hollowed his hips. Bookstores are equal opportunity shelters, I say. Hardcovers don't care what you're wearing. He half smiles, then grows serious. I owe you. No, I correct, flipping the hanging sign on the door to closed. You owe yourself, maybe your sister. Me? I'm just next in the relay. He follows me down biography toward the reading nook, folding into an armchair that sighs under his weight. I sink opposite, the scraped varnish coffee table between us. A silver desk clock ticks, a heartbeat, rendered in brass. I keep replaying that night, he begins, gaze fixed on the clock's minute hand. If you hadn't asked my name, if you'd screamed, cops would have shot first, red rights later. He lifts his eyes. I need you to understand why I was there. So I listen, spine straight, palms flat on Denham Miles's story. Dad left when I was 8, he says, voice soft as dust. Mom picked up double shifts at a cleaning company. Bills won for a while, power cut, eviction threats. But Mom kept us afloat. He thumbs the chair arm, nails ragged. Sister was born when I was 15. Different dad, same story. He vanished too. Money got tighter. I dropped out senior year, took warehouse gigs. It was fine until the accident. He touches a hairline scar on his temple I hadn't noticed. Forklift tipped. Concussion kept me off work a month. When I came back, company was downsizing. I was first out the door. His jaw flexes, memories grinding like worn gears. Savings gone, rent past due, sister hacking at night because the inhaler was empty. Rain patters the storefront window. Slow applause. I thought, one mugging, quick cash, nobody dies. Saw your coat, figured you had a phone I could pawn. Didn't expect you to suggest tacos. A humorless laugh tumbles out. Didn't expect kindness to feel heavier than guilt. The bookstore confessional. Silence pools while I shape a response. I glance at the history shelf nearby. Wars, revolutions, civilizations collapsing then rebuilding. Every spine screams the same thesis. People break, heal, repeat. Last summer, I say, matching his candor, I found Mom's old diary when we cleared her storage unit. Pages were full of calculations. How long she could stretch groceries. Which bills she could postpone. She never told me she cried in the bathroom so we wouldn't hear. I meet his eyes. Parents hide fractures. Kids inherit the fault lines. Miles nods slowly, carving invisible patterns on his knee. Never learned to fix cracks, only to cover them with more duct tape. A car horn barks outside, quick and distant, punctuating his sentence. I lean forward. The program will teach carpentry, but real lessons believing you can build anything that lasts. House frames, habits, second reputations. He chuckles, rubbing his wrist where cuff marks still bloom faint purple. Hard to picture a foundation when you've lived on shifting sand, unfurling lighter stories. The air is thick. We let it thicken further until Miles scans the nearest shelf and plucks a book. Greatest first lines of fiction. He flips, landing on Orwell. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. He smirks. Sounds about right. Open another, I suggest. He does. Dickens. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. He arches a brow. Coincidental whiplash. We trade lines. Hunting for resonance. Nabokov's butterflies. Woolf's borrowed room. Bradbury's book burners. Each sentence another breadcrumb across history's forest. Proof that messy lives still birth immortal paragraphs. At page 93, he pauses. Listen, ships at a distance have every man's wish on board. That's Zora Neale Hurston. He taps the text. My wishes always felt docked too far away. Maybe the tide changed, I offer. He snaps the book shut, returns it, gently to the shelf, as if shelving fleeting despair. The box of letters. I rise, cross to the back room, and fetch a shoebox labeled Unsorted Donations. Inside are letters, handwritten treasures customers slip into used books. I dump the pile between us. Pick one, I say. He chooses an envelope the color of old tea. Inside, a birthday card dated 1989, addressed to whoever finds this. Please believe in small miracles. A Polaroid flutters out. A toddler wearing a paper crown frosting smeared grin. On the back, someone has scrawled, "He's 25 now and thriving." Miles exhales like he's tasted air laced with lavender. Strangers leaving proof that tomorrow exists. We open more. A love note never delivered. A grocery list with "Remember Joy" underlined. Pressed violets brittle but intact. Each fragment widens the crack in Miles's protective shell, letting in something bright. Stories buried everywhere, I say. Somebody has to dig them up. His gaze roams the sea of envelopes. And retell them. he adds quietly. A plan etched in paper. Help me archive these, I propose on impulse. One evening a week, we'll scan, catalog, maybe post the best online. You'll learn sorting, digitizing, skills that marry carpentry's order with a librarian's care. He blinks. I'm terrible with computers. We start where you are, I counter. Hammer or keyboard, you measure twice. Cut once. A real smile, small but rooted, spreads across his face. Deal. He gathers an errant postcard, tucks it back in the shoebox like precious ore. Closing time. Again. The clock strikes 7. Streetlights hum awake. Cynthia pokes her head in, eyes twinkling. New volunteer? Apprentice archivist, I reply. She winks. We pay in coffee and first editions. Miles stands, stretching the stiffness from courthouses and hard benches. He extends a hand. Calluses scrape my palm. Monday I start pounding nails, he says. Thursday I'll sort letters. Hold the promise, I remind him. Rubber, he echoes, snapping an invisible band around his wrist. We step to the doorway. Rain has fizzled to a damp whisper, pavement glistening under orange sodium bulbs. He turns left toward Harbor House. I turn right toward the subway, but before traffic swallows sound, we exchange a final nod. An invisible document signed in lamp glow and lingering gratitude. Epilogue of an evening. On the train ride home, my reflection overlays night-black glass, a faint superimposing of bookstore lamplight and commuter shadows. I press a finger to the window, tracing backwards letters where fog condenses. M-I-L-E-S. The O-ring of the final S smudges, then wipes away as the train barrels toward the tunnel. Somewhere above ground, he's walking streets that no longer stalk him, pocketing bus fare instead of fear. In his hoodie waits a pamphlet about joists and jams, and maybe, folded inside a hidden seam, the Polaroid of a frosting-faced child reminding him that years pass, tides turn, ships dock. Tomorrow I'll unlock the bookstore, breathe dust motes, and new arrivals, and know the next stranger who wanders past the travel guides might carry an untold epic behind their eyes. My job is simply to ask the opening line, "What's your story?" Then hold the silence long enough for a hidden chapter to surface. Because stories unearthed don't just fill pages, they build bridges, mend fault lines, and sometimes hand a starving man a hammer instead of a blade. Chapter 9. A Helping Hand. Monday dawns clear for the first time in a week. Sky swept clean, the clouds off somewhere rehearsing their next storm. At 7 a.m., I'm already on the sidewalk outside Harbor House, a cardboard tray balancing, 2 takeout coffees, and a brown paper bag that bleeds the faint perfume of butter and cinnamon. Across the avenue, the building crouches like a converted warehouse that never forgot its rough beginnings. Corrugated siding patched with fresh paint, windows barred but blooming with hand-painted daisies. The new sign over the door reads, "Works," and Wonder's Apprenticeship Center. The letters uneven because volunteers stenciled them after midnight fundraisers. The receptionist blinks when I ask for Miles Carson. Apparently, family visits aren't common at 7:05 on orientation day, but she buzzes me into the cafeteria anyway. 40 folding chairs form 2 semicircles facing a whiteboard. Half of them are filled by men and women clutching clipboards, eyes flicking between nerves and hope. Veterans with duffel bags, a middle-aged woman in a housekeeping uniform she can't yet quit, teenagers whose sneakers still carry alley dust. A few stare at the double doors as though braced for bad news to burst through. I spot Miles near the back, hoodie traded for a gray t-shirt that bears the nascent logo of the program, a hammer crossing a quill. His name sticker tilts on his chest. Someone must have slapped it there in a hurry. He's rubbing his palms on his jeans, scanning the room the way an owl gauges a clearing for predators. When he sees me, something shifts behind his eyes. Astonishment first, then a sudden, cautious warmth. I lift the cardboard tray in greeting. He weaves through folding chairs and stops short, glancing at the other apprentices as though afraid to breach protocol. "You're not on the visitor list," he whispers. "Call it unscheduled morale support." I hand him a cup labeled Carpenter's Blend, heavy on chicory, light on bitterness. Out of the bag, I produce 2 still warm croissants. Rumor says orientation breakfasts are dry toast and last week's jam. The corner of his mouth twitches. Jam ran out yesterday. He accepts the pastry like it might detonate, then tears off a corner and chews. Butter glistens on his fingertips. Under fluorescence, his bruise-stained cheeks have faded to yellow. "Before we can talk further." A stout woman with safety goggles perched on her head claps for attention. "Eyes front, rookies. I'm Marion, site supervisor. By the time I'm done with you, you'll know the difference between a finishing nail and a finish line." Groans and chuckles ripple in equal measure. Marion gestures toward a pile of tool belts and hard hats stacked like tortoise shells. First rule, gear up. Second rule, ask for help before a mistake requires a tourniquet. The group shuffles forward. Miles lingers, eyes fixed on the leather belts, symbols of work that could collapse or carry him. I touch his elbow. "You'll be fine. Measure twice. Cut once," he finishes. "You said that." "Because it's true." I press a folded sheet into his palm. It's a rough schedule we sketched on the phone last night. Apprenticeship shifts, Harbor House curfew, Thursday archives at the bookstore, Saturday afternoon visits with his sister at the municipal playground across from her school. Time slots. Shaded in yellow mark non-negotiable self-care. Laundry, meals, sleep. Because burnout is a sneaky thief. He scans the paper, thumb smoothing creases. Looks impossible. Looks organized, I counter. Impossible is a schedule with no white space. Marion shouts, "Last call for gear." Miles tucks the sheet in his back pocket, dons a hard hat that dwarfs his head, and threads a tool belt through belt loops that barely hold. Before he joins the others, he glances back. "Thanks for the hand. Don't thank me until the belt feels normal," I tease. He offers a salute, half awkward, half earnest, then slips into line. Mid-morning check-in. By 11, I'm shelving new arrivals at the bookstore when my phone buzzes. Break time. Hammered thumb twice, still have all 10. Belt feels heavy but good. A second message follows with a blurry selfie. Miles grinning, sawdust smudged on his cheek like war paint. Behind him, lumber stacks rise like cedar chimneys. I snap a reply. "Croissant number 2 still waiting for you. Consider it hazard pay." Cynthia peeks over a rolling ladder. "Our apprentice texting already?" He survived half a morning. She slides a hardcover onto the top shelf. That's farther than some interns. Last summer. Thursday archives. 3 days later, dusk blankets the storefront when Miles arrives for his first archival shift. He smells of pine resin and cheap shampoo. I've cleared a banquet table under the mezzanine. Laptops open. Shoebox towers labeled letters AF, tokens, Polaroids. He cracks his knuckles. Where do we start? Chronological order, I say, passing him nitrile gloves. And with rules. Handle gently. Don't judge handwriting, and if a letter makes you cry, you fetch tissues, not sawdust. He laughs, tugging on the gloves. We fall into rhythm. He reads dates. I type summaries. The first envelope holds a soldier's note from 1944, edges brittle. If Paris looks this pretty after the war, marry me there. The second is a grocery list from 1978. Milk, bread, courage. Scrawled by someone facing chemo if a scribble on the back is truth. Each discovery feels like turning over soil to reveal seeds still sprouting decades later. After 3 boxes, Miles sits back, wiping an eye with the back of a gloved knuckle. Whole universes in scraps of paper. That's why we keep them. I point to the scanner. Your turn. Feed each page, adjust resolution. He hesitates at the keyboard. Never typed more than a text. Same muscles. Different. Rhythm. I guide his fingers to keys. Our hands form a temporary bridge over the alphabet. He tests a few strokes, letters populating the screen. His grin is unguarded, the face of a kid discovering a secret lever that makes carnival lights bloom, small detours, large returns. Over the next month, a pattern sets. Dawn carpentry, dusk cataloging. Between shifts, he visits his sister Jocelyn, reading her library books he borrows on my card. One Friday, he pops in breathless, asking for the Velveteen Rabbit. She wants the one where love makes you real, he explains, cheeks pink from the run. Paychecks arrive bi-weekly, modest but tangible. He opens a checking account, slips the debit card into a nylon wallet Harbor House provides. The irony isn't lost on him. He flips the card, studying chip and mag stripe like arcane glyphs, then stores it gingerly as if it might break under. Too much joy. On a rain-slick Tuesday, he shows up before closing with a plastic pharmacy bag. Her inhaler, he says, eyes shining wider than the fluorescent aisle. Paid in full. He sets the receipt on the counter beside the register, ATM. Thin slip but heavy as marble. 1 month review. At Works and Wonders, Marion conducts 30-day evaluations. Apprentices gather in the training bay where 2x4s frame mock walls, sawdust halos the floor. Miles shifts from boot to boot while Marion flips through a clipboard. Carson, she announces, voice echoing. Clock-in's perfect. Nail. Angles 90 degrees on average. Better than the guy with 3 years over you. She eyes him over bifocals. Biggest flaw? Apologizes every time the drill bit squeals. Carpentry needs confidence, not apologies. He nods, swallowing. Marion softens a millimeter. Confidence comes by repetition. Keep at it. She stamps. His form, probation cleared. The ink blots slightly, but Miles treats it like gold leaf. At the bookstore that evening, he hovers in the doorway until I notice the slip. I whoop loud enough for mystery readers to look up, then pin the form to the staff corkboard under a post-it that reads, "Today's good news." Cynthia adds a doodle of a hammer dancing with a book, repairing the fissures. Mid-October, Miles and I ride the bus to his mom's apartment, peeling paint, hallway smelling of fried plantains and floor polish. Jocelyn opens the door in fuzzy socks printed with cartoon planets. She squeals when Miles produces a handcrafted picture frame. Simple pine, sanded satin smooth, stained warm chestnut. The Polaroid of frosting-faced toddler, The one from our archive night glows behind glass. It's us, he tells her, pointing to the toddler's grin. He's older now, but he made it. So will we. Their mom, eyes tired yet bright, thanks me awkwardly. I just shake my head, watching Miles kneel to explain wood grain to Jocelyn. The Fishers and their family aren't gone, but fresh lumber braces the load. The unexpected phone call. Late one Saturday, the bookstore phone rings. A male voice asks for Mr. Mercer. He introduces himself as Thomas Grant, hiring manager at Grant & Sons Restoration. We partner with Works and Wonders, he says, looking for apprentices who show initiative. Marion speaks highly of a Carson. Kid mentions he's scanning letters at night to hone patience. Patience is rare on job sites. He offers a paid internship come January, higher wage, union track, tuition vouchers for evening trade classes, contingent on a formal interview next week. He'll need a reference, Grant adds. You have it, I reply. Miles nearly drops his phone when I relay the news. Interview? He repeats, shock fizzing into disbelief. I don't even own a collared shirt. We'll fix that, I say. Thrift store spree. Shoe polish optional. The thrift store metamorphosis. Monday. After archives, we raid Second Chance Apparel. In the men's aisle, Miles fingers fabrics like they might bite. A volunteer tailor appears, tape measure draped like a stethoscope, and sizes him for a charcoal button-down. In a cheap plastic mirror, Miles examines himself, tugging sleeves. The shirt fits surprisingly well. The man in the reflection looks older, possibilities broadening his shoulders. He laughs, short, startled, then stands straighter. I can't pay you back, he says, voice rough. Borrow against the future, I answer. Interest rate. One promise kept. The handshake heard round the block. Interview day breaks with frost on windshields. We rehearse answers on the bus. Strengths, weaknesses, why he wants restoration work. Grant's office smells of varnish and coffee. After 30 minutes behind closed doors, Miles emerges clutching a folder. His eyes are bright as struck flint. Outside, he opens it. Offer letter. Apprentice Restoration Tech. Start date January 10th. Wage up $2 an hour. He shakes my hand on the sidewalk, pump jack trucks rumbling past. His grip is firm, not the tentative clasp of a man waiting for the world to crumble. You gave me the push, he says. I shake my head. A helping hand. You did the push. Closing ledger. Back at the bookstore, We file the month's scanned letters onto cloud storage. Miles labels the folder Foundations and writes a mission statement. Every story saved is a beam that strengthens someone's roof. Cynthia prints it, frames it, and hangs it above the register. That evening, as we lock up, I find a slip of lined paper tucked into the shoebox stack, IOU, one miracle paid forward. Signed, MCI. Slide the note into my wallet, next to my faded DMV photo. It rests beneath thin leather, lighter these days since $40 took a boomerang route. And I think about how currency moves. Bills become breakfast, words become bridges, bridges become careers. Outside, the first holiday lights flicker to life along Maple Boulevard. Miles tilts his head, watching colors dance on wet pavement. Used to think December was just colder nights, he murmurs. Now it looks like a runway. For ships at a distance, I remind him. He nods, stuffing gloved hands into coat pockets. Mine's docking, Alex. Thanks for manning the lighthouse. We part at the corner. He toward Harbor House, me toward the hush of closing time. But the distance feels short, as if two stories rewritten in the margins can fold a city block to the width of a handshake. The lamplight stains the sidewalk. Gold, and somewhere overhead a hammer strikes wood in a rhythm that almost sounds like applause. Chapter 10. Crossroads. I wake before dawn on January 10th, the date circled on the calendar that hangs by my fridge, a bright red ring drawn weeks ago by Miles himself. Outside my apartment window, the city is a charcoal sketch. Rooftop lines, smudged by winter haze, traffic lights blinking sleepily through crystallized air. On the sill, the cheap folding knife he once threatened me with rests like a retired relic. I turned it into a letter opener after its trip through the evidence locker, blunting the edge so it can only slice envelopes and nothing more. I tap its handle once for luck, pocket 2 paper cups of coffee, one black, one sweetened beyond reason, and step into streets that crackle with frost. The sky hasn't decided on its color yet, hovering between bruise and pearl. Breaths rise in synchronized clouds with every stranger I pass. Today feels suspended, as though the whole city is holding a collective inhalation. The appointed corner. 4 a.m. finds me at the corner of 9th and Braxton, where 4 broad avenues meet like the points of a compass. Buses sigh, headlights, carving tunnels through vapor. A single street lamp halos flakes of drifting ice. I cradle the coffees, letting the heat climb my wrists, scanning for a charcoal jacket over a gray-collared shirt. At 7:07 he appears, hoodless for once, hair newly trimmed, steel-toed boots polished to an improbable shine. His restoration company ID swings from a lanyard like a freshly minted medal. For half a second he doesn't see me. He's reciting something under his breath. Maybe Grant and Son's safety pledge. Maybe an improvised prayer. Then his eyes catch mine, and the tension breaks into the sort of grin that defrosts winter air. You look like someone about to build cathedrals, I say, pressing the sweet coffee into his hands. And you look like someone who stopped sleeping. He shoots back, noting the shadows beneath my eyes. Occupational hazard for lighthouses, I shrug. He laughs, genuine, unguarded, and steam from both cups swirls between us, briefly braiding before escaping into the gray above. The gift of a moment. I hand him a small, flat parcel wrapped in brown craft paper and tied with twine. His brows fold. Another book? Open it after your first lunch break, I instruct. Call it morale insurance. He slips it into the messenger bag Harbor House issued, right, next to a rolled-up pair of work gloves and a spiral notebook labeled Measurements and Miracles. The notebook was his idea after I teased him that carpentry numbers counted as haiku if he spaced them right. A delivery truck trundles past, trailing exhaust. The pedestrian signal across Braxton ticks through its final red seconds. We stand at the curb, facing the restoration yard 2 blocks ahead. Its cranes silhouetted against dawn like skeletal dinosaurs stretching after eons of sleep. Somewhere behind me, the boulevard that leads to the bookstore unravels westward, glittering with leftover holiday lights. We have arrived, literally, at a crossroads. Final checks. You've got your union papers, right? I ask, fiddling with my scarf to hide nerves. Folder is waterproof, alphabetized and blessed by 3 librarians, he assures, parroting my earlier lecture. Bus route memorized, lunch packed, turkey on rye and the second croissant you forced on me yesterday. I'm good. He hesitates, then pulls from his pocket the IOU slip he wrote months ago, creased, soft at the edges. He has scrawled something on the back since. Debts paid, inhaler, rent, first toolbox. Debts pending, hope with interest. He folds it again with almost ceremonial care and replaces it inside the notebook. A horn blasts up the block, the morning shift assembling. Grant and Sons foreman waves apprentices toward the gate, clipboard flashing yellow under mercury lights. Time slides forward. Miles exhales. Well, he says, moment of truth. Not truth, I correct. Moment of trajectory. I extend my hand, but he shakes his head and hugs me instead. Abrupt, clumsy but solid. I feel sawdust embedded in the fibers of his coat collar and realize it smells like cedar, not desperation. He steps back, adjusts the lanyard. Archive night still Thursdays? Unless the apocalypse needs rescheduling. Decision lines. The crosswalk signal chirps. Miles presses the warm coffee to his chest, then starts across Braxton. Halfway, he turns and walks backward a few steps, saluting with the cup. "Measure twice," I shout. "Cut once," he calls, voice carried by cold air. Then he spins, strides the last meters, and disappears into the yard where forklifts hum to life. I remain on the corner. An icy wind cuts between buildings, but I linger, watching cranes lift steel ribs skyward, bones of future walls. Above them, the sun finally wins its argument with the clouds, igniting window panes in molten gold. For an instant, I see my own reflection in a distant glass facade, a figure holding one paper cup, standing at intersecting streets that now feel less like divides and more like open arms. I sip the coffee he left for me, the bitter, unsweetened one. It's gone lukewarm, but it tastes exactly like the first chapter of something unabridged. In the bookstore bag slung over my shoulder, a fresh batch of unsorted letters rustles, eager for new custodians. I picture Miles at lunch, unwrapping the parcel to find a slim journal titled Joints and Journeys. Its first page blank, except for a single line. Every beam you raise leaves room beneath for another story. Epilogue in motion. I cross the avenue in the opposite direction, heading toward Maple Boulevard. Traffic thickens. The city is fully awake now, churning forward with all its unresolved plots. My phone vibrates, an unknown number from the shelter's outreach office, probably another apprentice needing a reference. I smile and let it ring twice before answering. There will be other crossroads, other names, other folded knives, turned letter openers. But this morning, on this corner, one life pivoted from shadow to structure. And if urban legends are right, a building remembers the first nail driven into its frame. I decide to believe a city can remember the moment fear surrendered its place to possibility. Right here, 7:23 a.m., January 10th. I tuck my scarf closer, turn my face to the newborn sun, and walk, pages and beams awaiting, ready to be measured, cut, and cataloged into a skyline of stories still rising. Great work today! Every moment you spend practicing brings you closer to mastering your English listening and speaking skills. Remember, progress comes with patience and consistency. If this story inspired you or helped you in your learning journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Easy English Spark channel for more lessons and stories. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep believing in your growth. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining.